Caruso's Thoriah Hughes satellite phone chirped, and he checked his watch as he answered it. Yeah? Dom, it's Jared. We're going to have to pull you out. Clark and Chavez need some help in Paris right away. Caruso was surprised. He knew Clark and Chavez were working an op in Europe, but last he'd heard, their target had jetted back to Islamabad. What about Sam? Dom asked. Driscoll eyed him from the cot on the other side of the tiny, darkened room. Sam, too. The situation in Paris is the kind that is going to need the type of help you and Driscoll can provide. Ryan is on the way there in the jet. He's got everything you will need. Caruso hated to leave this up. The guy they'd seen in the market meeting with MED, the one Driscoll pegged for a Pakistani general, had not yet been ID'd. He'd love to hang around until the intel nerds at the campus got a hit on the man's face. But despite his high hopes for this mission, he said nothing. If John Clark and Ding Chavez needed help, then Dom knew there was definitely something serious brewing over in Europe. We're on the way. 11. Jack Ryan Jr. sat in the principal seat of a business jet that streaked at 547 nautical miles per hour through the thin air, 47,000 feet above and 41 miles southeast of Gander, Newfoundland. He was the only passenger of the aircraft. The three crew members, pilot, first officer, and flight attendant, had mostly kept to themselves in order to let Ryan read a thick binder that had been left on one of the leather cabin chairs. While he read, he sipped a glass of California Cabernet and picked absent-mindedly at a sausage plate. His laptop was open in front of him as well, and he'd virtually held the handset of his seat's phone to his neck for most of the past hour, talking to Clark in Paris, and to various operations and intelligence men at the campus in Maryland. He also spoke briefly with Driscoll, who, along with Caruso, was at that moment boarding a flight from Cairo to Paris. Ryan would be finished with this part of his evening's work in a couple of hours, but he already knew he wouldn't be getting any sleep on this transatlantic flight. There was a large amount of gear on board that he'd have to go through while getting directions from Clark and Chavez on the phone in order to make sure everything was ready to go as soon as he touched down in France. And once he got all that done, if it wasn't too late, he needed to call his mom and dad. He'd been so busy lately, he canceled a lunch with his mom and his grandmother's sister, Kylie and Katie, when Mom was home from the campaign. Actually, he thought as he took a sip of Cabernet. That day, he had not really been too busy to get home for lunch. No, it was a big red cut on the bridge of his nose, courtesy of James Buck, that he caused him to call off the get-together at the last minute. Since then, though, it had been 10-hour days at the office and then 3 to 4 hours in the dojo before staggering home into a bath full of Epsom salts, chugging a few gulps of Budweiser before crashing on the sofa of his Columbia, Maryland apartment. As the jet raced over the eastern shores of Newfoundland now, flying on a heading that would take it across the Atlantic and to the continent before dawn there, Ryan finished a 20-minute cram session over a map of the 8th arrondissement neighborhood where the Four Seasons George V was located. The one-way alleyways and the large, wide boulevards and avenues would take days to memorize properly, but he had to do his best to become as familiar as possible with the area before the team went to work there. He had been informed by Clark that he would be the wheelman, the driver, though Clark also warned him that they were such a small force he would undoubtedly be called on for other things. Perhaps even things that required the use of the Glock 23 40 caliber pistol that had been left on the aircraft floor. Jack reached for a printed layout of the Four Seasons Hotel itself to study the floor plan of the building, but he turned away, took a moment to look up at the high-definition moving map monitor